जयधारी माँ। हर जीवन अनेक प्रकार के रंगों से भरा हुआ है। बातचीत वही रंग बांटेगी आप सबके साथ। हम सब एक हैं, बस सोच अलग अलग है। बटोर लीजिए उन रंगों को, जो भी आप चाहें इस बातचीत से, और ढाल लीजिए अपनी सोच में। यही मकसद है इस बातचीत का। आइए मिलते हैं अपने प्यारे से मेहमान से। अतिथि देवो भव।
जयधारी माँ, आप सबको हमारी ऑडियंस का स्वागत है। आइए जुड़िए हमारे साथ। हमारे आज के अतिथि हैं स्मिता प्रकाश जी। शुरुआत करने से पहले, आज गुड फ्राइडे है। इट्स अ डे ऑफ रिफ्लेक्शन एंड प्रेयर। जी, स्मिता जी की जो जिंदगी के प्रति कमिटमेंट है, दैट रिफ्लेक्ट्स इन हर जर्नलिज्म। It's emotionally a very intense profession. With complete clarity, she has held her own. हम उन पर एक वीडियो देखेंगे और फिर उनसे बातचीत करेंगे। आइए। Jayadhari ma'am, very welcome. Very welcome.
Thank you so much, Saina. Thank you, ma'am. Ma'am, it's so, I feel a little embarrassed after that introduction, but thank you so much for having me over in your show.
जी मैम, very welcome मैम। जी मामी, मैं शुरू करती हूँ जी। मैम, why journalism? Why such intense journalism? And I'm going to connect it to another question so that you can combine it. It does hold the power of that yes and no. A very strong power is connected with journalism. The power of yes and power of no. So why journalism?
if I, when I was young, at that time, there was a lot which was happening when we were in school and when we were in college. India, I think, was just kind of transitioning, and a very momentous time in my college life was when Indira Gandhi's assassination happened, and a new prime minister took over, who was young and who wanted to change the world and change India. He brought a new energy into how politics was done. There was also things like one incident which really moved me to understand what newspaper world was, what journalism was the Shabano case, which happened when I was in college. So these were incidents which were happening in my teenage years, which got me very interested in journalism. My father was in the civil service, and he was the principal information officer to the government of India. So we had a number of journalists coming in and out of our home. And I used to chat with them sometimes, get to know about how they were reporting. And on the sidelines, I used to watch important incidents which were happening, and uh, how the government of India would react to it and how journalists would react to it. And I really wanted to be part of this world. So when I got into college itself, uh, there were two options. One was, I'll be honest to you, to become a cop, because every girl in my generation wanted to be a Kiran Bedi. So I got a whole lot of books and I said, पढ़ाई कर लेते हैं, UPSC ले लेते हैं. And then I realized बहुत पढ़ना पड़ेगा, Kiran Bedi बनना इतना आसान नहीं है. So that was then had took a back seat. I took the easier option, and I got into journalism. In the sense that I got into Indian Institute of Mass Communication, and I chose to do. At that time, we had these. The courses were together: ad and PR, which was advertising and public relations, and journalism. A couple of our courses were together. So the option was whether to do journalism or ad and PR. And some people advised me that journalism के लिए कोर्स करने की जरूरत नहीं है, तुम एड एंड पीआर करो, बिकॉज एड एंड पीआर is difficult to understand, advertising and public relations, and you can always get into journalism after that. So that's how I started. I did both the courses, attended both, but my degree was in advertising and public relations. My diploma, there was no degree course in journalism. So that's how I got into journalism, as far as studying it is concerned. And not a day have I regretted being in this field. Yes, the pressures of it are tremendous, but then the pressures are there in any profession. I mean, I would not say that it's any less in a medical profession, or in a profession which your mom has, or in which you are. A teacher's job is just as difficult. A homemaker has a difficult profession too. So I think that is something that we take on. If we take on multitasking, we do take on those pressures. But no, not a day's regret in what I have chosen as my career path.
Okay, then what happened? You joined then. Tell us your first story. Smita, tell us your first story. Go back to teenage days.
So when I joined advertising first, I worked in an ad agency for a short while, and I think where I just decided, no, this is not my line, is there was this one incident. I don't know, ma'am, if you recall. There was a press conference which Rajiv Gandhi, as Prime Minister, he had, and he actually fired a foreign secretary at the press conference. A question was asked. Mr. A.P. Venkateshwaran was the foreign secretary, and somebody asked a question, and he said, "You'll meet the new foreign secretary soon." So he actually fired a foreign secretary. And I was like shocked. And I was doing my training at that time, internship or whatever training, something like that. And I got all excited that ye kya ho gaya, and I came to the ad agency and I asked, I said, "Did you see this press conference? Did you talk to the people?" Hey, everybody was like, "What press conference?" I said, "Prime Minister held a press conference." Saying, "So?" Say, "But you don't know the foreign secretary got fired during a press conference." I said, "So?" Then I realized, oh my God, I mean, I can't be in this line. But then when I told my dad, I said that, no, I'm sorry, I want to do journalism. My dad was like, no way, you have a job and you're going to get a job. I mean, I think I was doing internship. You know how it is in a civil servant's family, naukri mil rahi hai, you can't, what are you going to do? Like, take the job first, you can't change. So then I took up the job. I started doing it, but then subsequently events started happening, and I was getting more and more attracted towards journalism. So then I went and joined ANI. And initially, when I started, there was no private television news. So all we were doing was we were production house, and we were making news spots for Doordarshan. There was private media in the sense of newspapers. There was no internet. There was no website. I mean, if today you talk about a world without a YouTube or without a Google, people think is zamane ki ladki hai ye. So it was really, so we used to make these news spots for Doordarshan, voice it over. And all of us had voice training. So we like, sometimes I mimic the kind of bulletins, like for example, if I was to, I'll just mimic it. Thoda sa, it would be like, on the 67th day of the second wave of COVID-19 in India, the number of cases were already 4.23 times. The peak cases during the first wave, this is how we had to read it. Kyunki hum sab पेट में से आवाज निकालो, do you remember, ma'am, at that time it was like the news read by Ritika Ratnam. The news read by Neeti Ravindran. हम सबकी training होती थी कि आराम से accent से बोलना है. So this is the kind of little news spots we used to make, and it used to run on Doordarshan. We started doing that, and then I got interviewed by various international channels, and I used to then work for NHK Japan. I did for NPR News in America, basically make news spots about India. So at that time itself, ma'am, it was like, there's a drought here, there's a famine kind of a situation, water shortage. These are the kind of stories. Tornado, there was food security, there were elections which were happening, there was assassination of Rajiv Gandhi. These were all the news stories of that time. Basically, they would ask me to, or pollution, Ganga pollution, insurgency in Kashmir. These were the kind of stories that I would do. And it was a bit frustrating that I couldn't tell my story the way I wanted to. They would tell me that do this story, or they would ask me to pitch a couple of stories, and invariably there were negative stories from India that attracted the world's attention. That's the only thing that they wanted. And it was a little frustrating working for these international broadcasters. And for a long time, I wanted to be, I wanted to tell the India story from an Indian perspective. So when we started the ANI news feed at that time, it began in a very small way to tell the India story. So we would make these television capsules, and we'd sell them, or they would be subscribers who were these channels in America, Desi channels in America, in UK, and in South Africa. And mind you, South Africa had not yet, India still didn't have diplomatic relations with South Africa. So we couldn't trade, we couldn't have we couldn't do any business with South Africa or South African channels. So South African channels would have an entity in UK. We would send our tapes to UK, and the tapes would then from UK go to South Africa. And there was such a desire among the Indian diaspora in these countries to know about India. And then we started doing stories like, basic stories which people didn't know. Like there was this one story I remember doing on Panj Pyaras. And people in Trinidad and Tobago, people in the US wrote back to such an extent कि हमको तो पता भी नहीं था कि पंच प्यारे होते कौन है. And when we did on Ramayana, we did stories, we did on the Gorkhas, we did these reports, and we sent them to these countries. And it was such a feedback we got that very, very interested. So when that happened, slowly we realized that there is a curiosity building, and the Indian diaspora in these countries started gaining a little more muscle power in their own societies. So they started impacting on their television channels, saying, we want more content from India. And that's how slowly and steadily the desire for news increased. Simultaneously, governments changed in India, and we had liberalization which came in. And with liberalization, there was this mushrooming of private television channels which happened. There was Gen TV, there was ZTV. Slowly, these things started opening up, and we found that what we were doing for foreign audiences, there was a need in India too. So that's how a news agency developed. And there was no looking back, because the desire to have information know is so great intrinsically in humans, that to tell us the same story in a different manner for different audiences was an interesting challenge, which I still continue to enjoy.
How lovely. This is almost getting biographical. When did you narrate such a story earlier? By the way, Smita, when were you interviewed yourself? You've been
Oh,
interviewing every one of us. When were you interviewed?
not many times. I think I've done two. I've done one with a podcaster called Vinamr, and another one with Beer Biceps, another podcaster, but and Kushal Mehra. These are three podcasters which I've done, but never an all-women team. It's great to have to speak with you. I mean, I was a little apprehensive, mind you, Kiran ma'am, because I've interviewed you, and to have you asking me questions, but I'm flattered that you'd be interested in my life.
Ma'am, you've seen so much of life so closely. How do you keep yourself centered? And what role does spirituality play in your life? Because you see life so closely, or सच झूठ पता होता है, and you see life, you see, how do you keep
Saina,
yourself centered?
पता भी नहीं लगा, when you ask me, you've seen so much of life, पता भी नहीं लगा वक्त कैसे गुजरा इतनी जल्दी. और it's like you're on this treadmill of doing things, करते 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 पता भी नहीं लगा कि काफी वक्त गुजर गया. And I think also this what should I say? It's this middle class mentality kahiye ya jo bhi, of this fear of failure. Um, and I grew up in a family, a civil servants family, jahan pe we were living. Um, किसी चीज की कमी नहीं थी, लेकिन एक्सेस भी नहीं था. देयर वाज नो स्कोप फॉर लग्जरीज. अभी अगर मैं इफ आई से दिस माय चिल्ड्रन, प्लीज हम अपनी पॉवर्टी की कहानियां मत सुनाओ. दिस इज हाउ चिल्ड्रन टर्न अराउंड. इट वाजंट पॉवर्टी. वी हैड अ वेरी कंफर्टेबल एग्जिस्टेंस with a very with very little, but it was we didn't know better. We didn't know envy. We didn't know कि अरे उनके पास गाड़ी है, हमारे पास स्कूटर है. It didn't matter. किसी के पास है, किसी के पास नहीं है. Never felt that we had less, but there was always this fear कि अगर it was paycheck to paycheck, right? So when you have a government, when you're a child of a government officer, you know कि अगला paycheck आने वाला है. But when you're in a private thing, and I always, my father had responsibilities, including paying for my brother's medical fees, which was very expensive. When you pay for medical college. So I started earning when I was in college itself. I was teaching dance in Holy Child Auxilium, and there was a little pocket money which would come in, and I became independent when I was in second year college, and I paid for everything immediately after that. Of course, dad paid for tuitions, but did that. So when I got married and moved to the private sector. It was then that my husband used to tell me that, like sometimes I would say, ki, yaar, why are we doing this? It's tiring, it's exhausting. And he would say, agar hum nahi karenge to koi aur kar lega, and we will lose out. So then I understood what is competition. And then I got onto that thing that to beat competition, you have to keep doing, you have to keep reinventing yourself, you have to keep doing this. So in that race of becoming what should I say, becoming good, better, best, or whatever in what you're doing, you don't have much time for yourself. You don't have much time to, like you said, center yourself. uh, as far as getting that spirituality, or getting, I don't have a guru or anybody in my life, Saina. So there was nobody that I went to in times of crisis. There was no time. I've been extremely resilient in being who I am. There was there was children to look after. There was in a joint family to understand. It was a cross culture marriage, like Kiran ma'am will know this, that when you have a career and you have children, and you have a family, you have pulls and pressures. To You don't have the luxury for yourself. You're just running in that. So I think it's only now that you have a little time to yourself, and you look back and you say that time kahan chala gaya. um, Fortunately, or unfortunately, whatever it is, you were so busy working, and trying to build something, that became your centrifugal energy. It gave you so much energy that you didn't feel shaken from that path. I don't know, am I making sense, Aina?
It's beautiful, ma'am, because I think for what I see is your greatest spirituality is the empathy in your heart, with so much of mindfulness and empathy. And you've translated that into your journalism, into your life, into your relationships, into who you are, ma'am. वही तो है spirituality. It's the
Maybe.
empathy. It's the empathy
Recall,
and sensitivity in your heart.
since we're talking about empathy, can you recall your times of journalism during COVID time?
Yes, I think it was a very challenging time, ma'am. I've spoken about this a couple of times. I was speaking to Saina some time back also about this. That the most awful thing was that a number of women who were working with us at that time, they didn't come back to work, because that work from home that happened, when they started working from home. Some of them lost family members. They lost their mother or mother-in-law, who were their support base, who were looking after their children when they were coming to work. When that went away, they couldn't come back to work. So it was very upsetting that the formation of your newsroom changed. So a number of women didn't come back. A number of young men didn't come back to work, because they kind of took on this 2 job 3 jobs to keep things going. They started working from home. But in journalism, what happens is you have to get to work. You can't work out of home the way our news works. It's not a soft news thing, it's a hard news organization. So we had to get to work, so I had to come to work. So I live in a family of quite a few people, so I had to get to work. So I was isolating myself from the rest of the family, not going near my father-in-law, not going near my mom. Those kind of things were happening. Kept myself isolated. But one by one, all of us fell victim to COVID. And there was a time when, during the Delta wave, I was pretty bad, and there was no bed, nothing. And I was shifted to Gurgaon. And, at that time, kind of a panic situation came in, and I felt, my god, like मैंने कुछ sort out ही नहीं किया life में. And I was thinking, अरे मैंने कपड़े नहीं सही करके रखे थे, what will happen to my mother, who look after her, who look after my kids, these kind of things started coming into my mind. And then I realized how futile. It didn't matter really. If I was to go, they would I have made everybody independent enough, or I've given them enough confidence to live their own lives. So when I talked to them, of course they were upset that things, suppose something happens to you. But at that time I felt I've equipped them, as a mom, as a daughter. I've equipped my mom, I've equipped my children to be strong enough individuals to look after themselves if I'm not in the equation. And I felt good about how I've been to my family, and I felt good about myself. Fortunately, by the grace of God, I could come back. Not many of my colleagues were lucky enough. We lost colleagues in the office. It was heartbreaking. when that happened, and it was in different parts. It was like to ensure that some of our colleagues got oxygen, got hospital beds. It's something which is like mind-numbingly painful to revisit that. But I've realized one thing: families which went through partition never talk about it. And I've always wondered, when I used to talk to my mother-in-law, when I used to talk to my father-in-law, they used to keep saying, बहुत बुरा हुआ है, बहुत बुरा हुआ है. क्या हुआ? बताओ तो सही. नहीं, बहुत बुरा हुआ. You know, they didn't want to talk about it. And I've noticed this in so many people that I've met in my life who have gone through that trauma. When I've in conflict zones, when you talk to people who were impacted by riots, maybe one incident they will talk about, but the larger picture, what happened to their families, they don't want to talk about it, क्योंकि वो कुरेदने से it is difficult to deal with that trauma. So I spoke with partition in Bengal. I've spoken with from rape victims. um, I've spoken with a lady who was gang raped in Dhaka during Pakistan rule. I've spoken to so many people who इसको उसको एक ठंडे बस्ते में रख के पीछे रख देते हैं बिकॉज उसको खुरेदने से दर्द होता है. Unfortunately, we are we are a pandemic generation. If we don't document, if we don't write down our feelings, if we don't speak about our feelings, that is what is going to happen. It's going to become one ball of like a cactus within us, and it will come out in some other form. And I feel as an entire lot of us, over a billion of us in our country and billions worldwide, we need to talk about this, about the impact of COVID in emotional terms, not just in data terms.
A little while ago, before we came on the line, we were talking about how the Western media reported COVID compared to Indian media. Would
Yeah.
you like to have you have an insight into that?
Yes, I think a number of people have talked about this, and I don't think enough study has been done. It needs to be done. Comparative study needs to be done about um, how we reported in India, and I am kind of embarrassed, ashamed, awkward. Sometimes proud also about how we reported it. Various kind of things. I don't want to take names, but we didn't have a protocol in place about how we should report this. So first there was that lockdown, the families which were torn apart, the intense trauma of those who walked. So everybody has done their own reporting, but a study needs to be done about how it was reported in our country. Individual report books have been written about it, but there needs to be a think tank needs to sit and accumulate data about how it was done and do case studies. How it was reported in America. In America, the bodies there were bodies which were unclaimed and put in freezers and shut. Nobody knew about that. There were no visuals which came out. Even the bodies which were finally taken out and buried, you hardly know of any visuals of how the burial took place, how those bodies were dealt with. Whereas in our country, we had shots of those cremations which happened. If you today look at any documentary anywhere in the world about what happened to the bodies, nowhere in the world you see them in maybe Indonesia, and rest of it is just India. You don't even see it in Bangladesh, you don't see it in Pakistan, kahin se bhi nahi hai. But it was that mass cremation shots which ran in Indian media is what you will see in documentaries worldwide. That is what was done because we didn't have any protocol in place. And somewhere I think there was also, the government also didn't come down and put rules and regulations about how to report, because there were bigger tasks at hand for the government, which was to provide oxygen, to provide medical facilities. So they were more concerned about that. They didn't focus so much on the narrative and the storytelling, and that went out of hand, I think. To grab eyeball space, every news media outlet, while we were trying to, to restrain ourselves, somebody else went ahead and did the story of aerial shots of cremation, of night shots of cremation, of half burnt and half disposed bodies. So when somebody does that, the competition becomes so much between channels, between newspapers, between websites, that then everybody goes for it, then everybody puts it out. Somewhere your human nature is quelled, because competition में अगर आप हार जाओगे तो nobody will watch you. So उसमें क्या होता है that somewhere I think we lost our humanity in telling the story. We were just putting those visuals out, which was shock impact was so much of that. So good or bad, I don't want to judge, but I do feel shaken by the whole episode. Maybe I will look back on it when I am less emotional about what happened, but I just feel a sense of loss about how we couldn't develop a protocol on our own. Like we developed some kind of a protocol after 26/11 reporting that nahi karna hai, deferred live jayega, live visuals of police action, terror action, anti-terror operations will not be shown. We developed a set of protocols. We did not develop for pandemic, and we still don't have it in place.
Probably
Ma'am,
the same situation in righteous cases or tragedies cases. In remember the climate when we have these tragedies, isn't it?
Yes. So in those also, what happens is, ma'am, आपको तो पता है, you've handled so many of these riot cases, and you've had conflict zones when it happens. So basically, there used to be a sense of mm, understanding between law enforcement and media. I'll give you a couple of examples. Just anecdotal examples. I'm not going to go to specifics. Suppose there is a riot in, let's say, Muzaffarnagar. I'm just making it up. Muzaffarnagar में riots हो गए 11 बजे रात को, one community against the other. Now, the protocol is that none of us will say Hindus attacked Muslims or Muslims attacked Hindus. It will be inter-community. So one community attacked another community. Of course, people don't understand why don't you say that who attacked who? Why don't you say this? It is out of a sense of responsibility. अगर हम immediately कहेंगे कि किसने किसको attack किया, and we don't have the law enforcement in place, it can mean loss of lives. What is more important, to get the story out and to protect lives? I am still old school. I still believe protection of life is more important. Protection of life and public property is more important, including private property. So most of us traditional media will employ that protocol. Second, if it is late night, if something has happened and it is in a small village, small town, where the SP has not yet, in case people you have foreign audiences, in case the police in charge of that area has not reached that
Yeah.
place and not cordoned off the area where a riot or an attack or inter-community, intercaste rivalry attack has happened. So what we would do is we would wait to get an okay from the police. ये हुआ है, can we report this or not? Suppose the police says, भाई हमको 15 मिनट और लगेंगे फोर्सेस भेजने में, अभी 15 मिनट के लिए रुक जाओ. All of us, I would not even say one person will put it out on air. 15 मिनट हम रुक जाएंगे. बस एक रोग चैनल है या एक रोग वेबसाइट की जरूरत है जो वो प्रोटोकॉल को तोड़ देता है. राइट? अगर वो तोड़ देगा ना, देन इट इज अ कैस्केड इफेक्ट. अगर वो
Wow.
तोड़ देता है एंड दैट पर्सन गोज ऑन एयर, देन एवरीबडी गोज ऑन एयर एंड से भाई उसने दिखा दिया तो हम क्यों नहीं दिखाएंगे, एंड देन इट डजंट मैटर. सो it also depends on all of us. As media, we need to have that responsibility. I was at a this is a slightly longer answer, ma'am. I hope you
No,
have.
carry on. This is a very vital answer.
Yeah. So what happened was, I was at this one of these sessions where I was talking with other journalists, and one journalist said, it's not my responsibility. I am reporting, and a conflict which has happened between India and Pakistan on the border. And if our forces are not there and we are getting fired upon, I'm going to report it regardless of waiting for for our forces to come and retaliate, because it is not my job to ensure that our border is safe. If we have not done it, not my job. I'm going to report it anyway. Now, that is his perspective. That is his idea of right and wrong. It's not mine. I'll wait for it. I'm lucky enough that, I don't have an editor, or I didn't have a superior who would yell at me and say, why didn't you report this? Why did you do this? Why did you hold back? But my conscience would not permit me. But I was lucky, again, as I'm saying, that I didn't have a superior. And even when I was working for a foreign organization, if I could convince my editor that this is not the right time to put it out. Please give me another half an hour and I will go live on air to report this. And this has happened multiple times in Kashmir, where I would just tell them that just wait for some more time, just give me half an hour more, and I will report this. And they were kind enough. They understood that, kind or respectful enough to use my editorial call on this, to wait. But there are other journalists who do that, and that's fine. I'm not making a judgment call. But increasingly, I'm seeing that with social media advent, people are not willing to leave that. Everybody on social media is in a horde lagi hui hai for hits, because more hits you get, more people view it and more revenue comes in. So as a result of that, people, and even on Twitter or whatever, because of the hits, because of the followers, so everybody has a cell phone, sab log laga dete hain. So, false news taking or panic caused due to one incident can result in such a panic for no reason. Like, there was this one fake news which went out that people of the Northeast are being attacked. And suddenly it spread like wildfire in Mumbai.
Yeah.
And log trainon mein bhar bhar ke ja rahe the. Later got to know, ma'am, that it was fake news by one of our enemies who did it. अब आप किसको पकड़ोगे? It just happened, right? It just somebody else might have that. You might have it. You might be at the railway station. You might be going to your hometown, and suddenly you see a whole bunch of people from Nagaland, from Arunachal, are all running in the train, and you have your cell phone. You're videoing it and you post it. Thoda sa, if you think back as a citizen journalist, if you're a citizen, you are a journalist today because you have your phone. If you post that without having information, the impact you can cause on hundreds and thousands of lives without knowing that information, without knowing why something is happening, is so tremendous. So the dangers of social media and traditional media putting out information without doing a fact check, back check, is really dangerous.
मैम, आपकी बातों से 2-3 बातें मन में आ रही है. प्लीज, इट्स अ थॉट. एक तो हम देखते क्यों हैं ये सब? हम देखते भी क्यों हैं? दूसरी बात मैम, कोई ब्रीफिंग मिलती है दैट मॉरल्स एंड एथिक्स को छोड़ना नहीं है? कोई ब्रीफिंग का सिस्टम है? और मैम, तीसरी बात, अगर कोई फेक न्यूज सर्कुलेट हो रही है उस टाइम पर फॉर नेशनल इंटरेस्ट, कांट द हेड्स ऑफ ऑल द मीडिया ग्रुप्स जॉइन हैंड्स एंड रिलीज अ स्टेटमेंट दैट वी आर इन दिस टुगेदर? For national interest, why can't all the media houses come together and release a statement that we are not going to be reporting this? It's a request. Do not view. This is not authorized by us. Social media pe jo ho raha hai, we can't control. But we don't authorize it, we will not report it. Why can't everybody come together just for that moment, ma'am?
Very good question, Saina. Let me go one by one. Why do we watch it? I think it is in human nature to watch negativity. We tend to veer towards that. So that's a larger question. Why negative news? मैं कहीं और बात कर रही थी when I said, ma'am, long ago we used to make we used, when we started our news agency, a lot of it was positive news. Ab jaake positive news ki stories aane lagi hai, but at that time we used to cover news from Naxal areas, like छोटा सा स्कूल बन रहा है, and under a lot of stress and under a lot of difficult circumstances, they are building roads, making the schools, वहाँ सब कर रहे हैं, and getting to a place, getting to so when the reporter would cover that, he would then बड़ी मुश्किल से reach video it and then reach a phone booth, one of those places where they could send it via FTP with, they'd send it to Delhi. हम लोग फिर उसको न्यूज सर्विस में डालते थे, कहीं नहीं लगता था. No channel wanted to see that Naxal area में क्या लग रहा है, from small hinterland stories. So I would wonder that why are we only interested in glamour and in those kind of stories, plasticky stories? But then that is what everybody wanted. Either you want to hear about riots and about markat, or you want to know about fashion shows and filmy stories. But stories about human endeavor, वो नहीं चलती हैं. Unfortunately, fortunately, people don't want to know about it. Now I'm seeing a change because of the democratization of news, because social media has come in, YouTube is there, इतने सारे YouTube channels हैं, you guys are doing phenomenal work. So, more and more people are finding niche areas, and traditional media is getting a shock of their lives that the way they were putting out news, the market is changing. If you don't give people what they want, and you keep thopoing news which you think people want to know, they're not, or which you want to put out, people may not want to watch that, and they will go elsewhere. So slowly things are changing. So I'm hopeful. I'm always somebody who's an optimist, that market correction will take place. Two, is there any training on ethics? Unfortunately, no. As far as news organizations are concerned, जब हमने journalism सीखा था, तो ethics आता है in that, and उसके बाद if you were to ask me, वो बंद हो जाता है. No media organization trains its people in ethics. Maybe we get one or two people to come and talk, give a talk or a lecture, and वो भी मैंने देखा हुआ है that जब आके वो बात करते हैं, most people are on their phones and they're scrolling, and this you will find everywhere. Everybody, the attention span is so little when we talk about these kind of issues. Three, shouldn't media organizations get together and say that nahi, hum aise nahi dikhaya karenge? Yes, I think the time has come. A very, very great suggestion from you. Hopefully, people will get together. I'm not too hopeful of it, because the competition side of all of us is so great. There's so much of rivalry. You'll hardly find camaraderie among journalists. हम लोग मिलते जरूर हैं, हम लोग we'll catch up, we'll chat, we'll be at press conferences, we share so much. 20, 25, 30 साल निकल जाते हैं, but एक story को लेके ऐसे कुत्ते बिल्ली की तरह हम लोग लड़ते हैं ना. So I don't know whether at the top level, if we can get together and bring about some change, put our egos, put our competition aside, put our rivalries aside and do something, I would be more than happy to be part of such an exercise.
Ji,
Smita,
ma'am.
can I ask you a follow-up question of credit rating? Is there any move by any agency or NGO or consideration of credit rating which media is most trusted?
I don't
Which
think so, ma'am.
television house is most trusted? You got so many surveys going on. Credit rating. How about looking at credit rating? Go back to public opinion. Say which paper do you, if any, which paper do you trust most? Which television channel you trust more? Which news agency do you trust more, comparatively trust more? How about credit rating? Just as you have now viewership rating, you have television viewership rating, but what about credit rating?
I don't think there is any, ma'am. मैंने तो नहीं सुना है about any credit rating so far. And I mean, all one sees is these awards, which
Yeah.
We as an organization don't apply for any award. I as an individual don't go to any award ceremony, nor do I accept any awards in journalism.
Mm. But that's a
Ma'am,
thought.
it's
Time
okay.
for any agency to pick up as a credit rating and see which agency do they trust most.
I guess, but
It will
I
be
don't know.
interesting.
I don't know of any as yet.
What about this online survey? I think maybe it can be tried as an online survey.
Ma'am, unfortunately, I've just seen that. Um,
It
I
can
don't
be
want to
managed.
put down anybody,
Ah,
but then I would just say that wahan pe bhi there'll be people
Yeah,
who
I
will
understand.
yeah.
bully
I
it.
understand. I understand that. Sana, you
Gee,
carry
I
on.
think, ma'am, it's about personal accountability now. It's really about the personal accountability. Ma'am, कल जो बात हो रही थी, taking that forward, we'll show you a little clip we've made for what's so deeply embedded in your heart. When I asked you what keeps you going and what's your driving force, what a beautiful answer and you gave us, and what's in your heart is so blessed. We'll show you that, and ma'am, then you talk about it, please.
Okay.
Ji.
All right. Okay. I
So,
didn't
Ma'am,
realize that it would be profound. I just
no,
came.
it was, ma'am. It was. Please talk about this. Yes.
Uh, I don't know. I guess I didn't realize that it's anything different. It's something you would feel too, or Kiran ma'am would also feel that. I think it's inbuilt maybe, or maybe it's all the more because I guess my schooling. I studied in an army public school, so I guess nationalism, patriotism is part of was part of my school going years, where we're feeling very proud about your country and wanting to defend it in whichever manner possible. Maybe not wearing a uniform, but in any manner possible. Um, in my class, several of my classmates went into the NDA. And I remember once, after a few years, going back to school once for an old students meet, and I just it was a it was in the open field, and all of a sudden, I saw, parents going on stage. They were parents of my classmates, and they had classmates, and some couple junior, those who were junior to me, some who were senior to me. They were being felicitated because those boys had died in Kargil. And it came such a shock to me that my classmates and my schoolmates died for the country. It I realized that it is something that we take for granted, our lives, but it was snuffed out, and they were just in their late 20s. That's all they were. And they just give up their life for the country. It was very touching. And I never went back to school after that. It was a very emotional moment for me when I saw, because when you're in school, you see those same parents coming, your classmates parents, and your parents of your juniors, who are coming for sports day, for annual day, and then there they were sobbing for their children. It was very scary experience, I would say. And subsequently, going to conflict zones, seeing these kind of things, and I realized I'm not doing something very great, but I just felt in many stories that I've told, um, when I told it to foreign audiences, I brought the human element out, not just India and Pakistan conflict, and like what should I say? So suppose it was the blowing up of Charare Sharif or something like that. I could just say that, yeah, okay, Mastgul was killed here, and that's what happened. Or Bombay, this is what happened, the Taj. But to bring out some human element in this, and for anybody anywhere, in somebody sitting in Japan, somebody sitting in America also feels touched by that, feels connected in some manner, bring a human element in an otherwise anodyne way of telling a story of a conflict, is something that I enjoyed doing, because I felt in some way I was doing some kind of a service to my country. I know it sounds like service to the country, sounds like a very big term to use, but I just feel that in my own way, telling the India story to the world is something that I have always wanted to do, and I feel blessed that I have the resources and I have the ability to be able to do it in a compelling manner.
मैम
Smita, do you
आप
see a gender difference? Saina, can I
जी
ask?
जी
Do you see a gender difference? I have to take permission from my daughter to ask you a
नो
question.
नो यस not at all, please, it's all
She's so
yours.
excited. She's so excited interviewing you, Smita. She's not going to give me easily any space much.
No,
But I
no,
have
no,
to wait for it.
it's very, very kind of you. It's all yours. It's all yours.
No, but Asina, I love that. Don't worry. But what I'm going to ask is there a gender difference between responses to these media incidents like these? Is there or is it a person? A woman's response to a particular situation in media and the way he or she reports? Does a woman's angle of reporting and a male angle of reporting, do you see a subtle difference?
There is a difference, ma'am. There is, in many cases, a woman will get into the depth of it. There was this. Once I'd gone to Bihar, and it was an election-related coverage, and हम लोग कर रहे थे, which is their typical, polling के लिए निकल रहे हैं लोग, खड़े हुए हैं, लाइनों में लगे हैं, doing it, and then not many people came. So most journalists said, "चलो 12 बजे आ जाते हैं अभी तो, it's too early in the morning." So everybody went for chai sutta. And I didn't want chai, I didn't want sutta. So क्या करूं मैं? So then, I said, चलो एक दो घंटे हैं, let's go towards the village. So took the car and went towards the village and said, नहीं नहीं इस तरफ मत आओ. So I said, क्यों नहीं? So he says, उस तरफ चले जाओ, इस तरफ मत जाओ. So I said, तो when me being me, as if somebody tells me इस तरफ मत जाओ, तो मैं उसी तरफ जाऊंगी देखने के लिए कि मैं क्यों नहीं जा सकती मैं. So got off the car and with my cameraman and walked through the gullies, and there was a girl, she was washing her the buffalo, and she was collecting cow dung and things like that. So cameraman ne shot banaya. What would a man probably do? He would just move away, right? He would go आगे जाके कुछ और दिखाएगा, कुएं के पास जाएगा, because generally कुएं के पास is where everybody collects in a village. तो कुएं में जाके पूछ लोगे आप कि क्या हुआ, कौन जीतेगा, कौन हारेगा, do that. And some weirdos will say कौन सी जाति के हो, आप किस जाति को वोट दोगे. Those are also there जो ऐसे
Yeah.
काम करते हैं. So I instead went and asked her. So I said, she looked about 14, 15. So I said, school jati ho? So she said, nahi. So I said, क्यों? So she said, वो क्योंकि उस गांव के पार है. So I said, तो क्या हुआ, उस गांव के पार है तो मतलब एक गांव छोड़ के एक गांव है. So she turned to me and she said that she named the caste. I don't want to name the caste. She said, उनका गांव है, upper caste है, उनका गांव है, तो मैं नहीं जा सकती हूँ. So I said, ठीक है, तुम मुंह ढक के मेरे को बताओ कि क्या है तुम्हारा, I won't put your face. So उसने मुंह ढक के, she told me that she can't cross that village to go across to high school. She had finished middle school. She can't go to high school because that if she crosses that वो fields में से, she would get raped, because automatically any woman from that caste going across that thing, वो automatic है rape होना. मतलब the guy has the right, whether he uses it or not is his prerogative, but if he sees a woman from that lower caste going across, I'm talking about 15, 18 years ago, if she crosses across, he can do that if he wants to. I got a shock of my life, ma'am, that मैं किस किस बबल में रह रही हूँ कि मुझे ये पता ही नहीं है इसके बारे में. So I got that story and I brought it back to Delhi, and I was thinking about it. मैं करूँ ना करूँ, because it portrays such a horrible part of the country. And then I said नहीं, अगर हम ऐसे ही दबाते रहेंगे इसको तो ये कभी नहीं निकलेगा और ये कभी नहीं सुधरेगा. So I
Yeah.
need to be put out. If it's put out in Indian media or in foreign media, डालना जरूरी है. So we put it out on Indian media. It got a lot of mileage, and there was a lot, and I got called by the home minister in that place, and ये कि क्या तुमने कर दिया election के time ऐसे कर दिया. That's a long story. I don't want to get into that. वो सब झेलना पड़ता है. That is one thing. Then recently, ma'am, I had gone to cover not 2019, उससे पहले 2014 वाले इलेक्शन में, या 2019 वाले इलेक्शन में, सॉरी 2019 वाले इलेक्शन में अमेठी गई थी मैं कवर करने के लिए. आई हैड गॉन 2014 आल्सो, कवर्ड, आई हैड बीन टू अमेठी सेवरल टाइम्स. एंड वहां पे जाके 2014 इलेक्शन, एवरीबडी वाज लाइक हम तो स्मृति ईरानी को वोट देंगे, मसल मेमोरी कि हम तो अभी सॉरी हम राहुल गांधी को वोट देंगे क्योंकि हमने हमेशा गांधी फैमिली को वोट दिया है, तो हम हमेशा उनको देते आए हैं, देते रहेंगे. आई मीन इंदिरा जी को दिया, राजीव गांधी को दिया, हम तो किसी और को नहीं देंगे. So that's what I felt, that she's putting up a fight, but she's not going to win because of this. In 2019, when I went out there, the youth who I was talking to, they said naukri nahi hai, ye nahi hai, factory nahi hai. They went on saying like that, but they said, some of the people I talked to, they said that no, she might win because women voters are going to vote. So I said, to kyun, like what is it that is happening? So she said, one, the toilets which have been built, so they don't need to go to the thing. So I said, "Achha, okay, fine." So he said, you don't understand what it means to go, that they don't need to go to the forest. मतलब जब वो forest जाती हैं, they get raped. It's not just कि they have to go. They all have stomach related issues because they can only go and use, they can go to the forest and
When
defecate
it's
only at 4 a.m. Right? They can only go at 4 a.m. so that अंधेरे में कोई देखे ना, या फिर 12 बजे रात को they will go and defecate. Whole day they can't. Right? And many of the youth are voting for Smriti Irani. I said, why? So the men, why the men? Because they have lost their mothers, they have lost their grandmothers. They've lost their grandmothers because चूल्हा फूंक फूंक के cancer died. जमीन बेची दादी को बचाने के लिए, जमीन नहीं बेच सकते नानी को बचाने के लिए क्योंकि जमीन बची नहीं है अब. So they've seen their grandmothers die. They don't want to see their mothers die. They don't want to see their sisters get
Wow.
raped like their elder cousins got raped. So
No.
we don't even realize that एक चूल्हा एक घर में आने से, या
Yeah.
एक
Toilet.
इज्जत, as they call it in Uttar Pradesh, not toilet, not latrine, they call it izzat ghar.
Oh,
There's so much to it which we don't realize, which we take for.
wow. Okay,
Ma'am,
Saina, yours again.
Ma'am, you'll be able to spare 5-10 minutes more because we've completed 1 hour. It's just gone. So
Sorry.
you'll be able to spare a few moments more.
Yeah. Did
Because
you get my friend? I didn't ask.
Yes, ma'am. That's what I was going to. She's joined us. Can we call her? And
Because
we
yeah,
can
you asked me to
Yes.
get.
Ruchira.
Yes.
Can we see Ruchira?
Could
Yeah.
be Yes. Yes.
Hello. Good evening, Kiran ma'am. Hi, Sanya. Hi, Smita.
Yes.
Such
Very
a
well.
pleasure to be here today. I've been listening riveted to this conversation, and I'm really wondering what you're going to ask me.
Just just talk about your bonding. Smita ma'am is such a lovely person. Why
Tell
don't
us
you just
what kind of a friend she is. What's friendship between you? What kind of a friend she is?
I
Including
wake
the
up.
people.
I
Don't.
wake up to a flower from her every morning. She sends these flowers to us every single day. And when sometimes she goes off social media or off WhatsApp, we miss it because that flower is a good morning. And all
Wow.
of us respond to it, and we know that we are all well. That is
Oh,
something that I really associate with her. I don't know if you all know, but she has a green thumb. She loves flowers and nature. And
oh, lovely.
also throughout the year, I really enjoy the sabzi she sends me.
Ah,
Bags of vegetables that my mother looks forward to, and I love it. Absolutely love. I've known
oh,
her for now 41 years, Smita, almost.
I know.
Yeah. That's how long we, yes. There was a time in the middle where, because of communication problems or, marriages and life, we did sort of not be in touch so much. But when we did finally meet again, it was seamless. Absolutely. And so I've known her from the days when we wore Kolhapuri chappals to now. And in the middle, uh, there's always this stardust that sprinkles onto you when your friends are popular and they are very well known. So I remember showing everybody Ghumta Aina, because that was one of her first shows and she used to be on it then. And now too, I can safely say that she's my go-to person when I want any information. She's looked after her parents and worked so hard. I say this together because I know her work is very high pressure. And what Smita's done for her family, both mothers and her husband's side, is remarkable. It's her learnings in life have made her a bit of a medico also. So if there's something you're concerned with, you can just tell her and you can be sure that, yeah, she's making sense. She's also a person that you get what you see. There is
oh,
really
wow.
there's no hypocrisy about her. If she's mad at you, she's mad at you, and you better make it right. Otherwise, there is no to. She's not going to. Um, she'll speak her mind. That is quite sure. Which is a big relief in this world, because you know what you're getting, and there's never any. No multiple layers. You can be very rest assured about that.
Kiran
So we
ma'am,
have.
Ruchira and I, we've known each other, like she says, for a long time. And it's my set of friends who keep me grounded. Uh, when agar main thodi si chad jaun, they are immediately there to tell me कि come back. And Bulbul, we know her as Bulbul, Ruchira is her
Richard.
name. And we've gone through so much in life, getting married, having children, losing parents, kids getting married, so much grief also, so much, and we share all that. Or agar wo, we need this, like I was just telling Saina that working women need a village, hai na? Don't you agree,
Yeah,
Bulbul? We need a
Yeah,
village to look
absolutely.
after. Getting to work, we need our mothers-in-law, aunts, koi bhi aa jaye, ja help kar lo mere ko, like, otherwise I can't do what I'm doing. And she's been one of those. So we've been there for each other. And thank God for that support structure that women have in our country. And she's very much a part of that for me.
Yes.
so
Uh,
beautiful.
Yes, it's nice that, as you grow older, your friends, you sort of pair the extra friends in your life, and there are a few that remain, and we are very lucky to be a group of friends. It's a safe space. We know that we can talk about anything, and it's not going to go out of there. There is no judgment. There's no an absolute trust, and it's wonderful. We all need it sometimes. And
Yeah.
whenever we get a chance and she can sneak away from her work commitments, we get together and have a meal or whatever. But she is working so hard that it's not even funny. And it's a high
Because
pressure job.
she loves her country.
She loves her country.
She told China she's done it
Yeah.
for the love of the country.
Yeah. I don't know if I think she showed you that she's a fabulous mimic. She can hold
Huh?
court
She did.
for an hour or 2 hours and you're not going to get bored.
She did.
Fabulous mimic. She has the
Ruchira,
memory
she
of an
did.
elephant. I since I've sort of grown up with her almost, we were very young in college. I always ask her, how do you know so much? So, I mean, if she's talking about a country or about a policy or something, so she does work hard at it because she's talking to very important people and she matches them sentence to sentence, and which is something I'm very proud of. And it's not just for the show, I say it to you on your face also that, bhai,
ये
kitna yaad rehta hai, have you learned?
मेरे को रुलाएगी.
So we've come
Ma'am,
from that stage to sharing our books to now exchanging notes about grandchildren and about how life is at this time, and it's quite remarkable. And I really hope that it continues to be like this.
Yeah, God willing.
मैम मैम आपको ये वो जो बोल रहे हैं वो ठीक बोल रहे हैं बिकॉज मेरी जो 3-4 बारी आपसे बात हुई है फेल्ट कनेक्ट
Hmm.
यू आर सो रियल एंड सो वार्म एंड दैट
That's what
कनेक्ट यू
that's what
मेक
Ruchita said.
यस मैम आपको अच्छा क्या लगता है छोटी छोटी चीजें कौन सी अच्छी लगती है आपको
Well, I wouldn't have known what to pick, but then Bulbul ने भी मेरे को बताया, तो I realized that um, I love being in nature. So I have a patch of garden. I grow vegetables. I grow flowers. It gives me a lot of satisfaction. I have dogs. I'm love playing with them. Um, once in a while, if I can meet this girl, is abhi jo bol rahi hai itna ki main busy hu, you can see behind her the painting. So
Yeah.
she is very busy. She's a publisher herself and she's an artist. So if I can tear myself out, I spend time with family quite a bit. And make it a point. That is important for me. And I keep taking breaks for travel, whether it's within the country or outside the country. I just feel one learns a lot by meeting with completely unconnected with your business people and I just need to also say this, that encouraging women at the workforce is something that I want to do. I don't do enough. I want to do more. I make mistakes. I stumble. And I'm grateful to people who correct me in that. At times I might have lose my patience, because when you reach a certain position, you don't like being corrected. I've realized that people don't like being corrected. So I have to keep telling myself that don't become like the kind of people that when you were starting out they were. So I just hope that I don't become insensitive as I grow, more senior in what I'm doing in my positions.
मैम टाइम हो गया है बट देयर आर
There
टू
was so
लिटिल
much to ask you, Smita. So much.
टू
There were
लिटिल
so many
थिंग्स
people wanted to ask you about the future of media, the women in media, but we can't hold on.
But
We
ma'am, I want
cannot
to
hold
ask you something. I
on.
want to ask
I
you
wanted to
something
ask you
very
this.
personal. It's We are so grateful that
Yeah.
you got you've come back home and COVID went by. We are so grateful that we have you back. Did you feel the hand of grace? Has it been a new lease of life to give you a fresh purpose? Has that happened with you?
Did you feel the grace? That's what probably Sana is saying.
Have you felt that grace and you've come back for a deeper purpose? Have you felt that?
uh, that's a very deep question. um, See, during that time, it really it came as a shocker what happened, and Ruchira lost her father during the pandemic. Another friend of ours, she lost her father, and it was gut wrenching that I couldn't even go for the funeral. A person who you've known for 30 odd years, 35 years of your life, you can't even go for her father's funeral. You can't be with her and in her time of need. So it happened with two of my friends. One of my friends developed a complication, and she had a brain hemorrhage, and she's leading a very difficult life right now. So these are all things which tore me apart at that stage. And the only thing that kept me going was my work and my family. And yes, I think all of us all of us are blessed that even if we have come out scarred, we have come out of that pandemic. And there must be a greater purpose. There must be a reason why we were chosen to survive this. If I was to uh, I sometimes hesitate to think that it's because of one god, or because of one heavenly intervention that we are alive. I wouldn't know whether that's the reason, but now that we've come out of it, I just feel that um, for a greater good, or if I can impact in some manner in people's lives, and if I can do something to help people, I would, uh, in my work way, if in through my work, if I can help people, I would just feel that my purpose has been resolved.
Super.
Lovely. Blessed.
You are
Blessed.
very loved. Smita, you should know you're loved and admired.
Thank you so much, Kiran
And
ma'am.
your
It means
friends
so
all
much to me.
across. Truly
Saina,
loved and admired.
just I know I've overshot, but I must tell you that my son comes on the podcast and with me at times, and we have this mother-son little kitbit going on where he says something और मैं उसको टोकती हूँ, and then he looks at me कि टोक क्यों रहे हो मुझे बीच में. It's the same thing that I see happening between your mom and you, and it's adorable. It's really sweet.
Thank you. Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you so
अच्छा,
much,
एक और बात. Any plans of writing a book?
Oh gosh, no, never.
Smita.
Never. I've been witness to so many things in life. I would never betray confidence by
But you know
writing.
what?
नहीं नहीं
If you
ma'am.
transcribe,
Not about not that kind of book. The
Yeah.
book on the emotions and the feelings and the life that you've seen. Your reflections. Your
Smita, it has to be written one day. It has to be written.
have you ever thought of that, ma'am? Not
No.
It has to
nothing
be.
personal.
Smita, it
Nothing
has to be
He
written.
also keeps telling me this, that you must pen it down. I'll have to open myself up, ma'am. वो थोड़ा डर लगता है.
You know
No, I
what?
think
In
that
fact, if we,
I have an
Sana,
opinion
if
on
we would
that. I feel
sorry,
that
carry on.
Smita couches the hard work and the stress of her life in humor. And for
Yeah.
her to be able to write a book, she will have to really peel off the layers, and it's not going to be
Mhm.
easy for her. If she does it, it's going to be a matter of great bravery. But I know that she survives because she's able to laugh and make people laugh with her anecdotes or something. If she has to write a book, it's going to come from within. It's going to really she will perhaps someday, because she has so much to tell. But what I know of her is that's why she's protesting right now, that no, I'm not going to write a book.
I
Bingo.
think
As I
there'll
as I was
be
trying to say, if we would transcribe this interview, it's half the book because you've been so expressive. You reached out so well. You really poured your heart out. I think it's a very unique journalism, a journalistic approach. I think
Thank
it's
you.
been a great pouring. You've been so frank and honest, and you said what you felt like. It's almost half your book if you would transcribe it. But Smita, one day it will have to be written.
Thank you,
We
ma'am.
look
Thank
forward
you
to
so
that.
much for saying that.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Lots of
Thank you.
love
Thank you,
and
ma'am.
lots of
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you, ma'am. I'll be with you. Thank you.
thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Ruchira ji. Thank you.
Thank you
Bless
so much. Thank you.
Thank you
Lots
for
of love.
inviting me. Bye-bye.
ji. We see you next month. Thank you to our audience. Jai Dhari. Thank you.
Thank you.